All right, guys, in today's video, we're going to be working through 3-point perspective. So we've gone through 1-point and 2-point. We've done basic and more intense versions of those linear perspectives. Now we're going to add a vanishing point. A lot of people are probably used to doing it with like 3 vanishing points in the horizon line, but that's not how we're going to do it. There's actually 2 ways to do this 3-point perspective, and we're going to start with bird's eye view. So if you'll recall, in bird's eye view, you're looking down at the whatever you're looking at, so you're above it, which means your horizon line has to be pretty high on the paper. So go ahead, make sure you draw your horizon line. It should be horizontal. So this is the top of my paper right here. So I'm maybe a little over an inch underneath it, and then draw that straight across. All right, so this is going to be 3 points. So you're going to have 2 vanishing points on each end of your horizon line. And your third one for bird's eye view is going to go down here at the bottom. It's okay if it's in the middle. It's okay if it's slightly off center. So I've got this one, and this vanishing point. All right, so like 2-point perspective, the 2 vanishing points on the horizon line are going to be for any line that would be considered horizontal. So like tops and bottoms of windows, roofs, floors, ceilings, all those kinds of things are going to be going to these vanishing points. The third vanishing point is for every line that would be considered vertical. Every line that it would be considered vertical or going up and down would go to this last vanishing point. So we're going to be drawing a city, just like we did with the 2 points. So we're going to start with our street. So you're going to line up. We're going to start first with the left vanishing point. Draw a line from that vanishing point all the way to the bottom of your paper, like so. We're going to do another one slightly farther apart from that. Draw from the vanishing point to the edge of your paper. We're also going to add little sidewalk lines on either side. So these sidewalk lines should be closer. So like this is the width of your street. The sidewalks are not as big as the street, so don't make them so far away from your lines. And make sure every time you draw that you are lining your ruler up with your vanishing point. Okay. I'm working with a little bit more of a challenging ruler today. This is a 2-foot ruler. It's a little bit long. Usually I use my 12-inch, but I couldn't find it, which is awful, but anyway. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing coming from the right vanishing point all the way down to the bottom of the page. Okay, so now I've got 8 lines coming from each of the 2 vanishing points on the horizon line. Next, we're going to start with our first building, and it's going to line up with the highest intersection of these lines here. So the highest intersection is this intersection right here that's closest to the horizon line up top. You're going to line your ruler up with this intersection and with your vanishing point down here at the bottom. So I'm actually going to move this up a smidge. It's a little bit easier. See my little vanishing point right down there? All right, so I'm going to line my ruler up with this intersection and my vanishing point. I'm going to draw a line, and I'm not drawing it all the way to the horizon line. This building's a little bit shorter than the horizon line. It's about right there. All right, and just like with 2-point perspective, every time you draw a line that would be considered up and down vertical, you need to line it up to both vanishing points at top and bottom. So that's what I'm going to do next. And just like with any other linear perspective, you want to make sure you're drawing your lines kind of light because you may not be keeping the majority of that line. You may end up erasing a good bit of it. All right, so now that we've got these long sides, we have to line our ruler up with our vanishing point again to get the other sides of the building. So you get to decide how wide you want your building to be here. That's up to you. All right, so we've added 2 lines that would be considered up and down. So then we have to line them up with the vanishing points on the horizon line. So this is our first building. We're going to add several more, but we're only going to add details to one of them because that's going to be a lot of buildings if we add too many. Our next building is going to start at the intersection of these lines farthest to the right, which is right here. So you're going to line your ruler up with this point and this point down here. This one looks like it's going to be a little bit taller than our first building, and that's fine. So we're going to line up the top of this line to our vanishing point. And then we have to line it up again to the other one. All right, now this building's not quite finished. It needs probably another line that would be considered up and down, and it needs an end somewhere up here. So I'm going to first end the top of it by lining my ruler up with the left vanishing point. So now I've got the back end of it, and I can erase this line because I don't think I'm going to need that again. Then I'm going to add the other side here. So I'm going to line up again with my vanishing point down here at the bottom of my page. This building needs to appear larger than this one, so this should be relatively wide space between this line and our next one. All right, and now this building is technically done. We can erase our road lines inside there. All right, this right here is why you want to be drawing your lines lightly, because I can't fully erase that. Some ghost lines are left behind because I drew that line a little dark. So just keep in mind, keep your lines light because you're not going to keep all of them. All right, so the next building we're going to add is going to be at the leftmost intersection. So the one that's farthest to the left, that's this one right here. So you're going to line your ruler up with this intersection and our vanishing point down here. So I think this building is going to be a little bit shorter than our first one. So I just drew that line there. So now we have to line it up to both vanishing points. All right, so I have again part of the front side and the top, but both of these things need to get a little bit shorter. So I'm going to start with the top by lining up my ruler with the right vanishing point. And I just drew it from this line here going to the left vanishing point from that corner to create this corner. Then I have to line my ruler up with the third vanishing point again down here at the bottom of the page. And again, this area should appear wider than this because it is closer to the viewer. All right, so now we've got three buildings. We can erase what's inside this one. All right, I want to add a few more buildings in this space to try to take up that a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line my ruler up with my third vanishing point down here at the bottom, and I'm going to start to the right of my first building. I'm not going to put it right next to it. I want there to be a little bit of an alleyway here. And I want to draw it kind of tall. So I drew it above the horizon line here. So now again, I'm going to line this point, this line up with the two vanishing points on the horizon line. And now I just have to end both of these sides because again, it crosses the horizon line. I can't see the top of that building from my vantage point. So this side, I'm going to put it just slightly behind here, but this building should also appear smaller. I mean, it looks like it's smaller from this point, so I'm just going to draw a line from the roof of this second building here to the top of that line I just drew, right there. Then I'm going to add another line somewhere in here to get the side on the left. And again, I'm lining all of these lines up with my third vanishing point. All right, so here's another building. I'm just going to erase whatever's inside it. All right, so I'm going to put another building over here because again, I want to take up some more of that space. And I'm going to do the same thing here that I did with this line. So I'm not going to put it right next to it. I'm going to have a little alleyway. I also want it a little bit taller than that one I just did. So this one goes all the way up to just about the top of my page. So if you look right there, that's just a teeny bitty gap. But I'm going to line that up with both vanishing points on the horizon line. All right, so I've just added these two lines here. Now I've got to add my up and down lines, so my vertical lines, that would be going to my third vanishing point. And again, I'm probably going to put it behind this building here, the third building. Okay, so here's one line, and I'm going to add the back line there. Okay, so here is another building. I'm just going to erase whatever is inside it. So if we wanted to, we could fill up these spaces with more buildings. I'm not going to do that though. I'm just going to try to keep this demo a little short and sweet, but we are going to add something down here so that this looks like it's like we're standing on something, like there's a balcony. So we're going to start with the floor of the balcony. So I'm going to start by lining up my ruler to these two vanishing points so we can figure out where the platform is that we're standing on. All right, so I added lines here. I added lines where I really didn't need to add lines. So I'm going to go ahead and erase those again. All right, so this is the platform right here that we're going to be standing on. We have to erase everything inside it because I'm imagining this is some sort of concrete or wood if we're in some sort of like maybe an apartment complex or an office building or something that has a walkout. So we just have to erase that. Okay, I got to darken this line down here. It got a little bit light. Now I have to get the banister or safety rails for this little balcony that we're standing on. So we're going to line up this corner here to the tip of this edge there with our vanishing point down here at the bottom of our page. I'm going to draw it nice and high so that we have no worries about falling over. Then I'm going to line up the top of that line with my vanishing points on the left and the right, and I'm going to draw. So lined up left, I'm going to start from that vertical line and then draw to the right all the way to the bottom of the page. All right, so we could make this glass. We could make it kind of a banister. If we made it glass, we'd have to add some, frames or something to hold the glass in. If we made it just kind of like an iron banister, we'd just have to put bars around it. So I think I'm going to maybe make this a little bit thicker. It helps to use the ruler for this again, just to I want to shade that in. And I'm going to make this a little bit thicker. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing over here. All right, so I think I've decided I'm going to make this a glass banister. So I'm going to add another line coming from this point, since this is supposed to go up and down. Just going to add another little like iron rail to help hold my glass pane. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And I'm going to add these little brackets. So I'll fix these with some little lines going to the third vanishing point because I don't know exactly where they're supposed to end. And all of that gets shaded in. All right, so I'm going to make the same kind of brackets up here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to line up these lines again. But I'm just going to draw them right here. And again, don't know how long these need to be, so I'm just going to line them up with my third vanishing point and then draw the necessary line to kind of end them. Okay, so these are too long, these are just right. All right, I'm going to shade this in. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. Except now I'm lining them up to the right vanishing point. Okay, so then I'm going to figure out the ends by lining up to the third vanishing point. All right, so then once you get these last few drawn in, go ahead and erase the extra bits. And of course, once you get rid of the extra bits, you can shade them in. All right, so really the last step would be to add some details to these buildings. I'm not going to do that for all of them because that's a lot. I'm probably not going to do it for this one. All right, so what we want to do is measure our window heights. The problem is that the more towards the bottom they get, the smaller they get. So what I'm thinking is I'm just going to kind of draw where I want the top to be. Like how many floors? I'm going to do it on one side. So as these go more towards the bottom of the building, the windows get smaller, the space between the windows gets smaller, and so on. All right, so now I've got my measurements for my windows on one side. Now I have to do the same thing on the left side, but these are going to the left vanishing point. Again, keep these lines light. All right, now I have to actually figure out the window widths. So these are going to be lined up to the third vanishing point down here at the bottom. So I'm only going to draw my up and down lines between the large spaces. Then the farther away from the center of the building, so the farther away from this line they get right here, the smaller they get. Again, keep the space between your windows smaller than the windows themselves. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing on the left side. Again, I'm lining my ruler up with my third vanishing point down here at the bottom of the page, and only drawing these vertical lines or up and down lines through the large spaces. All right, so now I've got all these windows on my building, but we need to figure out a way in. So I'm actually going to extend, I think, this window right here down to the ground, just to turn it into a door, and then I'm going to erase that. All right, so next step, we need to erase any lines that are not making windows. So to do that, go ahead and mark which ones are your windows. So I probably could have fixed that, but yeah, oh well. All right, so then you're just going to erase the lines that are not making windows at all. Okay, so that's the only building we're going to add details to. Of course, we have where we're standing here. The only thing that really changed with adding details in 3-point versus adding details in 2-point is the fact that your vertical lines, the lines that would be vertical, are going to the vanishing point down here at the bottom, and the objects get smaller the farther down they go. So like at the top, they're larger. That's literally the only difference between 1-point and 2-point. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same. All right, so we are also going to do another 3-point demo, so tune in for that video as well.